Right now, in the Strait of Hormuz, two ships are moving at 3 knots, both trailing sonar arrays behind them on cables. Same speed, same mission, same corridor, the one that carries 20% of the world's crude oil. That is USS Frank E. Peterson Jr., DDG-121, a $2.2 billion Arleigh Burke guided missile destroyer. And directly behind it, USS Michael Murphy, DDG-112. 3 knots is not a mechanical limitation. It is the precise speed at which the AQS-20 sonar body can build an accurate picture of the seafloor. 3 knots is hunting speed. The negotiations in Islamabad collapsed on April 12th. The ceasefire expires in 9 days. And right now, the most consequential question in global energy markets has nothing to do with what happens at the negotiating table. It has everything to do with what is sitting on the seafloor beneath those two ships. 150 tankers are anchored outside this strait, burning fuel, going nowhere. Every day that lane stays closed costs the global economy an estimated $1 billion. 3 physics constraints are keeping those tankers anchored. None of them appear in any ceasefire document. All of them are running on a timeline that has nothing to do with what happens in Islamabad on April 22nd. The Peterson does not wait for negotiations to conclude. It does not accelerate when a deadline approaches. It runs at 3 knots because 3 knots is what the physics requires. To understand what those ships are hunting, you first need to understand what the IRGC put on that seafloor, and why nobody on Earth has a complete map of it. The combat phase and reopening a maritime choke point are not the same equation. The first is over. 38 days of airstrikes, naval engagements, and mine-laying interdiction. Declared complete on April 8th. The diplomacy that was supposed to follow collapsed 4 days later in Islamabad. The second equation, reopening the strait, is governed by physics, logistics, and market confidence, and none of those 3 care about either outcome at the negotiating table. Here is what we know about how the mines entered the water. Beginning around March 10th, 2026, the IRGC began deploying naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Professional mine laying is a grid operation. Dedicated ships, GPS coordinates for every device, a numbered chart that maps every mine, one that could in theory be handed to a third party for clearance. This was not that. IRGC fast attack boats. Small, high speed, difficult to track. Scattered mines across the strait in a decentralized deployment. Speed over precision, volume over accuracy. The goal was to put steel in the water as fast as possible before US forces could interdict the operation. They succeeded in getting mines into the water. They failed to produce a map. US officials have confirmed that Iran likely did not record precise GPS coordinates for the majority of the mines it deployed. The result, which was apparently not accounted for in IRGC planning, is that Iran itself cannot now locate the mines it laid. Iran does not have a chart to hand over. It does not have a set of coordinates to negotiate with. It deployed a weapon it can no longer recall. 28 mine-laying vessels were eventually intercepted or destroyed. But those intercepts came after the mines were already in the water. What those boats dropped, estimated in the thousands, is still down there. The Persian Gulf current has been moving those mines for more than 30 days. Washington claimed that 97% of Iran's mine inventory had been targeted. The operative word is targeted, not recovered, not neutralized, not removed from the water. This is the problem the war did not solve. Iran built a weapon designed to outlast itself. Start with the numbers. Iran's mine inventory before the conflict was estimated between 2,000 and 6,000 devices. The 2 mine types confirmed in this deployment are the Maham-3, a deep-water moored influence mine that detonates on acoustic signature without requiring physical contact with a hull, and the Mayhem-7, a shallow-water bottom influence mine built from fiberglass and glass-reinforced plastic. The Mayhem-7 is particularly difficult to detect. Its fiberglass casing produces no metallic magnetic return. It sits flat on the seafloor. It does not move. It does not ping. It waits. The fiberglass casing is a physics decision. Steel produces a measurable magnetic signature, a distortion in Earth's field that magnetometers can detect from 30 feet away. Fiberglass produces none. No magnetic distortion, no thermal signature, electromagnetically invisible. The only way to find it is to pass a sensor within feet of its position, one grid square at a time. Now run the intercept math. IRGC fast attack boats carry 2 to 3 mines per sortie. Small load, but they ran multiple sorties per day across weeks of deployment before the intercepts caught up. 28 mine-laying vessels intercepted or destroyed, the number already in the water before those intercepts, estimated in the thousands. The intercepts did not recover mines. They stopped additional mines from going in. The ones already deployed remained exactly where they were. And where they were is the problem. A moored mine is tethered to an anchor on the seafloor by a cable. The mine floats at a set depth. In theory, it stays in position. In practice, strong tidal shifts and deeper currents stress the mooring cable. When a cable fails, which happens in dynamic shallow water environments over weeks of deployment, the mine becomes a drifting object, unanchored, moving with surface current and wind, unpredictable. The primary shipping lane through Hormuz is approximately 2 nautical miles wide and 21 nautical miles long. That is roughly 42 square nautical miles of navigable corridor that must be assessed. U.S. forces do not know how many mines are in that corridor. Iran does not know. Nobody has a number, because nobody has a record. You cannot clear a minefield by working from coordinates. You can only clear it by searching systematically, repeatedly, at slow speed, with tools designed for a different version of this problem. The Navy built 4 systems for exactly this: the ALMDS airborne laser, the AQS-20 towed sonar, the unmanned influence sweep, and the Archerfish precision kill drone. 4 systems, 4 steps: find, scan, detonate, kill. All without a sailor in the water. The engineering is real. The capability exists. What changed is this. The 4 Avenger-class mine countermeasure ships forward deployed in Bahrain: USS Sentry, USS Devastator, USS Gladiator, USS Dexterous, were decommissioned in September 2025. The dedicated hulls built to operate at Hormuz during a mine crisis were retired 6 months before the mine crisis began. The nearest replacements are homeported in Sasebo, Japan. What CENTCOM has in the Strait right now is USS Frank E. Peterson Jr. and USS Michael Murphy, 2 Arleigh Burke destroyers. They are not mine countermeasure ships. They are guided missile destroyers pressed into an MCM role, deploying modular mine hunting packages. They can do this. It is slower than using dedicated MCM hulls, and in this operation, slow is the central problem. Run the geometry. The AQS-20 towed sonar operates at 3 to 5 knots, the same speed the Peterson is already running. It covers a sonar swath of approximately 600 feet per pass. The primary shipping corridor is 12,000 feet wide. That is 20 overlapping passes minimum for a single lane before neutralization begins. Then the second lane, then both again for verification. Then the adjacent zones, because mines drift. For comparison, after the Gulf War in 1991, an international coalition cleared Kuwaiti waters with access to Iraqi mine-laying records, coordinates, mine types, grid charts. With that map, clearance of the main shipping approaches still required nearly 7 months. At Hormuz today, there is no map. The Navy is conducting a search operation inside a clearance operation. Those are not the same problem. And the Peterson is not operating alone in another sense. On April 11th, the IRGC Navy issued direct warnings to both destroyers. Same 42 square nautical miles, 2 different definitions of who controls it. An adversary does not need to fire a shot to complicate a mine-sweeping pass. It only needs to be present. Every mine-hunting pass the Peterson makes puts a $2.2 billion hole slowly, predictably, through terrain that may still contain the weapon it is hunting. Bottom mines sit below laser range. To find them, you tow a sonar body behind the ship. There is no version of this that happens from outside the minefield. Hormuz is 89 to 164 feet deep, the lower threshold of optimum sonar performance. In open ocean conditions, the AQS-20 achieves detection probability near 90% per pass. In shallow water, sound reflects off both seafloor and surface simultaneously. Acoustic reverberation masks small objects. Detection probability drops to 60 to 70% per pass. Not a design failure, a physics constraint. And it means a cleared lane cannot be declared safe after one pass or two. Each additional pass extends the timeline. Each extension means more time with a $2.2 billion hole in an uncleared corridor. The Mayhem 7 is not a passive sensor. It is a programmable logic device. Iranian engineers configure what MCM operators call a ship counter, a threshold of acoustic signatures the mine ignores before arming to fire. Set the counter to 5. The mine allows 5 hull signatures to pass and fires on the 6th. The unmanned influence sweep tries to trigger it with a simulated hull, but if the counter exceeds the number of sweep passes, the mine discounts every pass and waits. U.S. forces have no way to know what threshold any individual mine is set to. Every non-detonation pass is ambiguous, neutralized, or the counter is at 4, and the next pass is the 1. When Archerfish neutralizes a mine, it fires a shaped charge designed to rupture the casing without detonating adjacent devices. In a charted field with known spacing, engineers calculate safe standoff. In an uncharted field, every detonation sends a pressure wave of uncertain radius through uncertain proximity to an unknown number of other devices. Each neutralization is a potential trigger. Each verification takes time. Stack these constraints and the endpoint is clear. Some mines survive every sweep, some never respond to the influence sweep system. And a very large crude carrier at 300,000 tons and 14 knots carries energy that dissipates over 2 to 5 nautical miles. The tanker cannot steer around what the clearance missed. It can only trust the clearance, and the clearance cannot guarantee zero. In 1987, in this same strait, the MV Bridgeton struck a contact mine on the first day of Operation Earnest Will, after the U.S. Navy had swept the route. The sweep had missed one mine. After the strike, 5 U.S. Navy warships moved into the Bridgeton's wake, behind the tanker. Because the tanker's hull had already struck whatever the sweep had missed, the warships were safer following it than leading it. Guided missile warships using a 414,000-ton supertanker as a minesweeper. And those were contact mines. Passive. No counterlogic. The Mayhem 7 is not. 3 problems that appear to be separate. They are not. They share the same face. Nobody has the authority to declare Hormuz safe. Not the U.S. military. It cannot certify a field it cannot map. Not Iran. It cannot negotiate coordinates it never recorded. Not the ceasefire agreement. It addresses political acts, not steel objects on a seafloor. Iran's deployment strategy, whether by design or chaotic execution, produced a weapon extraordinarily difficult to recall. The tactical goal was to put steel in the water fast. The strategic consequence is that the weapon outlasted the war that created it. The mines were deployed in days, the reversal will take months. And the reversal cannot be compressed by political pressure, because the mines do not receive political pressure. Iran lost the military campaign. But the mines are still fighting. They were not defeated at the ceasefire table because they were not invited to the ceasefire table. They are not represented by any government. They are not bound by any agreement. They answer to one variable only, the acoustic signature of a hull passing overhead. Washington declared the war over. The Mayhem 7 does not know. It was not informed of the ceasefire. It has no radio, no receiver, no chain of command. It is a piece of fiberglass, an explosive on the floor of the Persian Gulf. And its rules of engagement have not changed since the day it was deployed. It will function exactly as designed for months, possibly longer, because no mine in the history of warfare has ever surrendered. USS Frank E. Peterson Jr. is still in the strait, still moving at 3 knots. Every pass of the helicopter laser, every tow of the sonar body, every drone dive is mapping terrain that was deliberately made unmappable. The problem is not the people running the operation. The problem is the problem, and the problem was designed to be this hard. Here is the actual operational decision that determines when 20% of the world's oil starts moving again. How many ships need to transit Hormuz without incident after clearance is declared? Before a tanker captain trusts the math, before his insurance broker underwrites the voyage, before the owner of a $150 million hull and 2 million barrels of crude decides the residual risk is acceptable. There is no fixed number. The market runs its own algorithm. Incident rate, cargo value, insurance premium per voyage. The algorithm is real. It just does not publish its threshold. The ceasefire is political. The clearance is physical. The reopening is economic. 3 separate problems that the same announcement cannot solve. The announcement happened on April 12th. The other 2 problems are still running.